Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for August 10th. So, I want to take a look at Trump for the coming week and see what kind of shenanigans he's going to be up to and what sort of insanity we can anticipate. Do not adjust your screens if you see this smoke kind of wafting in front of me. I have an incense burning, just to sort of clear the energy and keep it clear. So that's my question. That's what we're going to take a look at. So going down. Okay. So an interesting weekend. I hope you guys had a chance to relax and decompress a little bit. Lots kind of crazy stuff going on. So McGahn, the federal appeal court, I guess, has ruled that in fact the House committees can force Don McGahn to testify. So that's interesting. I wonder if that's actually going to effectively apply any pressure on Trump, or, if by virtue simply of the fact that it took so long, he sort of dodges a bullet there. And so the United States dumped a bunch of a 10%, I guess, tariff on aluminum, issued that tariff to Canada, and Canada is replying with I think it's 3.6 billion tariff back to the United States, and that is in equal measure. Okay, so we're not doing more than they are doing, but Canadians are pretty darn sure we're not going to back off. So there's that, Oops. Interesting. I'm going to shift this a little bit. Interesting that sitting on the bottom deck is justice, as we're talking about Trump. So that could prove interesting. So here we go. Trump this week, Trump this week, Trump this week. Bottom now. Six of Cups is on the bottom, so I guess maybe he's going to be looking at trying to go backwards in time, reliving old memories, going on and on and on about how big his inauguration was. Okay, so the government as a whole, his White House, the Republican Party, you're starting to really see sort of a pulling away or almost a fraying of support. Some of the latest polls show both McConnell and Graham in very, very tight races against Democrats. I mean, for goodness sakes, that's just is like sort of mind-boggling. But they both are struggling. So way to go, South Carolina and Kentucky. Let's hope that momentum continues to build and they just really realize that their behavior, their attitudes are just done. So you're going to see a little bit of shifting. Now, the stimulus package, as I'm recording this, they haven't sorted anything out yet, but I guess they're going to continue. So, that's going to come. It's going to come. There's still going to be a lot of back and forth, but eventually they'll get it done. But they're not going to comply, I guess, to what Trump wants. And honestly, if he tries to pull back, they're just going to say that is enough of that. The problem is, within those registered Republican voters, he is still sitting at a 91% approval rating. But what you have to remember is the number of registered Republican voters has just shrunk as they have gone independent. Some of them have even, and a lot of those are just flat out voting blue, whether they kind of want to or not, because they're just so determined to get these guys gone. And so as long as he's holding that kind of a support with his base, and Republicans need his base to vote for them, the pulling away is going to be subtle, and they're gonna try and do it kind of quietly, but you're definitely going to keep your eyes open. You're going to see a little bit more of that going on. Don't be at all surprised if there's some more information that comes out about Trump and his money, Trump and his taxes. If I'm not mistaken, there is a ruling that is supposed to come down, I think, on the 14th. So anticipate that he's going to get some bad news from that arena. And that is really going to throw him into a tizzy, because, he's already, they're going after him. Tish James is going after him for, no, I've got that wrong. Tish James is going after the NRA, which of course is a huge supporters of Trump. And then Clay Vance is going after him for, tax fraud, insurance fraud, etc. The walls again are starting to close in on him. Maybe belatedly, but they're starting to. Now you're going to start to see the impact of it. You're going to see the effect of it. What you're going to see is a lot of talking. He's going to be talking, he's going to be yelling, he's going to be screaming. Some of it is going to be behind the scenes. Unfortunately, some of it is going to be in public, and we're going to have to listen to this like wackadoodle go on and on. He's going to start. I keep saying he's going to start, but it's almost unfathomable that he really hasn't started already to figure out exactly what a heavy lift this is going to be. He is not going to be able to just, delegate and snap his fingers and win this next election. He's actually starting to figure out that things aren't going so well for him. But this is the crazy thing about Donald Trump, right? What he doesn't want to hear, which is it's time for you to leave, buddy, he simply convolutes so that he is internally having a much more supportive dialogue. So on the one hand, you have this guy who literally spends his time trying not to be revealed as a fraud, and then convincing himself that of course he's not a fraud, he's wonderful and he knows best and he knows everything, and yak, right? So there's this like real conflicting message going on. And for a while, sort of that part of him that was saying, listen, Donny boy, you're a bit of a loser and you really don't know what you're talking about. And wow, are you ever out of your league? That voice he was able to keep a little bit quiet because the Republicans were so busy kissing his butt and telling him he was wonderful, as was Xi and Putin and whoever else, because everybody understands that the slightest flattery goes a long, long way with this guy. So he was actually able to push, if you will, that voice to the background. But now that's not working for him. And he's not liking sort of the message that is taking precedence, taking up more space, if you will, in his head. Oops. Well, I guess, that's telling us something, right? There you go. Okay, so we've got the devil. You've got the Four of Pentacles. You have the Empress and the World. So, this is kind of what he doesn't understand, can't comprehend, does not compute. The more crazy and erratic his behavior becomes, those who, are sort of quietly supporting him are going to start diminishing also. And he doesn't seem to understand that by clinging so tightly to the past, to his illusions of greatness and grandeur, to his own money, and frankly, his own ulterior motive. By clinging so hard to that, more and more stuff comes out about him. It expands, it grows, and it's not in his favor, because it really has gotten to the point where not only are many Americans laughing at him and making fun of him, but so frankly is the vast majority of the world. And so the more this behavior becomes accentuated, the sort of the worse it gets for him in terms of public opinion and what the world sees and how they're reacting to him. They want him, Eight of Swords. They want him put him in his place. They want his hands tied. They want him completely restricted. And he doesn't seem to be understanding that that's exactly the road that he is going to be traveling down. He is relying at this point more than we realize on partnerships. He's relying on election interference. He is relying on foreign actors to get him over the goalpost. And the problem with that is that you cannot sort of hijack an election to the degree in which it would need to be hijacked in order for it to really have any sort of significant impact. I have to tell you that as every day gets closer and closer, that blue tsunami is getting bigger and bigger because his behavior is becoming more and more erratic and ill-informed and desperate. And, you know, desperate people do not instill confidence in those who they are asking to vote for them and put them in that White House for another 4 years. Yeah, how many times have I said this? He's shooting himself in his own damn foot, right? And that's exactly what is going on with him. And it feels very much like this week, more stuff is going to get exposed. And there's really not going to be a whole lot of good news that comes down the pike for him. Now, does that mean that in his own head, it's bad news? Maybe, maybe not. Does that mean that he really understands or acknowledges how much work has to be done? No. And let me tell you this too, about that fundraising. His re-election campaign is really aggressively fundraising. And I think it was during the 2018 midterms, I asked my brilliant audience of Americans out there, what happens to the money? Like, what happens to the money that a campaign does not use? Well, the simple answer is it belongs to the candidate. So you can exactly see what's going on. They're really pushing donate, because ultimately that money is funneling itself right in to Trump and the Trump family's pockets. So there's just going to be information that more and more is just going to keep on coming out. He's not going to like the news. Everything's going to upset him and agitate him. And I hate to tell you this, but energetically, next week, it's going to be worse. It's almost like, you're going to start seeing him kind of in a more dramatic way or with more clearness, just starting to really crumble in front of our eyes. And not that he hasn't been doing that, but it feels kind of like the cracks are getting bigger and they're less able to support the fantasy he has built on those cracks, on that foundation that is now cracking under him. He's not capable of looking internally. He's just not. It's not his thing. He doesn't know how to do it. And every time he runs into something internally that he doesn't like, he just, pivots and runs the other way. And so there is not going to be, certainly looking at this, there is not going to be a moment of clarity where he's like, oh, wow, I really have to start working for this. He is not going to understand it because really he didn't work for the last win, did he? It was sort of handed to him. And up until the votes were finished counting, he didn't even believe that he was going to win. And so he's relying on that same sequence of events, but that same sequence of events is not going to, I guess, have the impact. Now, does that mean that Russia is not in there and other foreign actors are not in there, doing their level best? Yes, it does. That's exactly what it means. Of course they are. But even though there is a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety about interference in the votes, etc., election interference. And I'm not saying that you guys are sealed up tight like a drum because you're really not. But I can say that there is some stuff going on behind the scenes that is going to keep you guys just a little bit more protected. So, yeah, what you're going to see is you're going to see him in a really defensive posture this week. You're going to hear him trying to twist things that frankly are bad luck into good luck, or things that are very negative for him. He's going to try to twist them because apparently doing the whole, well, what can you do? It is what it is. And, that kind of nonsensical talk that just is, it's so showcases him for really, really what he is at his base, which is mentally unwell and broken. He doesn't know any different, so this is what he's going to stick with. And it really feels like this week you're going to start to see some of those waters under him get really choppy. So it's gonna be turbulent around him. The energy around him is turbulent, and frankly, the energy around the people who are around him is turbulent. It just feels like it's really, really not coming together, and he's not going to be able to spin it. And it's a re-election campaign; it's not going to spin it. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if Pelosi ends up frankly, really backing things into a corner so that I think when it comes to the stimulus package, she is going to get more than she gives up. Republicans are going to give up more than what they got. So there's going to be decisions made. They're going to, do everything they can to get that thing moving. And, Trump is going to say something or do something that tries to derail that. It doesn't feel like it's actually going to work. It feels like those who are pushing against him are really, really going to have some victories this week, which of course destabilizes him, again and again and again, right? So interesting. He's going to fall more and more into his delusions as he tries to figure out how to swim out of the trouble he is in. And the problem is that more and more he's going to realize that he really isn't capable of sort of steering his ship into calmer waters because he lives in a state of chaos. That's what he knows and understands. And of course, my Ace of Sword card is my Joe Biden card. And that looks like there is going to be more good news for the Biden camp. They're saying that vice president is going to be identified or announced, maybe even today, but certainly it's looking like early this week. People are going to be very, very, very happy about the choice. And again, this is the thing. Not everybody is going to love the choice, but the only question you need to ask yourself is Pence better? Do you want 4 more years of Pence being vice president? And of course, the answer is a resounding no. So then it's a matter of saying, well, you know what? That's who he picked. That's what he wants for his team. Let's go from there. We want him strong. We want a strong group of people around him, and let's support. Okay. But again, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very, very pleased about his choice. And again, that is going to feel like another almost attack on Trump. Now, I have been hearing sort of rumors about, he's not going to actually get the nomination. He's going to, at the convention, it's going to be all hush hush, and then they're going to, pull out Mitt Romney or Nikki Haley. I'm not saying that's not possible. I don't see it. And part of the reason I energetically am not seeing it at this point, anyways, is because his base, those remaining Republicans, are so stuck on him, because really those people who are still stuck on him are not Republicans anymore. They are Trumpers. And the Trumpers are really all they can count on and depend on to vote for him. The people who absolutely refuse to believe the truth or see it or hear it. So how is it that the Republicans are going to pull this fast switch and those Trumpers are not going to rebel? Yoy. Sure. If they do that, there may be some Republicans who are sort of, holding their nose and voting for Biden because they really, aren't democratic in their, just their makeup. That's not their belief structure. But I think that in a lot of cases, so much damage has been done by so many really, really bad Republican behavior and attitudes that there are a lot of Republicans out there who are planning, are now independent and they're going to vote for Biden. I think there's a lot of them out there who are going to also vote blue all the way down the ticket. So I'm not so sure. It could happen. I'm just energetically at this point not quite seeing it. I really do see him on a downward trajectory. There's going to be, little bumps where he gets some good news, or maybe he ticks up in the polls or something, but it's not going to be enough to actually change anybody's opinion. And he's going to talk, he's going to open his mouth, and whatever uptick he gets, he reverses that by literally the next thing that comes out of his mouth. So I'm not seeing a lot of ground being gained for him this week. And again, it's looking like he's going to get sort of more bad news in terms of money, in terms of his legacy, in terms of his actual wealth. So, this is the problem, right? He believes his own press, right? I late last week I was listening to somebody, I can't remember who, and they were going over some of the financial information that they already have on Trump. And at the point in time where Trump was saying he was worth $6 billion, he was apparently actually only worth $788 million. But he likes to round things up or down, depending on what side of the ledger he wants it to fall on. So I'm anticipating sort of more difficult or hard news for Trump. In terms of his money, his secrecy, his legacy, his family, etc., as if he hasn't gotten enough bad news in that arena. And let's not forget that whole thing with that Turnbull golf course, and he wanted the British Open, just sort of moved over to Scotland because that was going to work real well for him. That sort of situation is really starting to pick up momentum, and there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions, like exactly one, where is the IG report, and two, why was he fired? And why was the guy who advised the ambassador, Woody, whatever his name is, to just not say that? And then he also was let go or fired or whatever. So there's a lot of questions, and that is going to continue to just throw mud in his face. And there comes a point where, you know what? If you can't answer the questions, you just end up really looking a little bit kind of foolish. Well, isn't that interesting? Here shows up the Justice card that initially was sitting at the bottom of the deck. So Justice, Temperance, the Queen of Cups. Okay. So what we're talking about here is it's reassurance. It is saying, listen, justice is coming in its own way, in its own shape, in its own form. It is coming. He can't escape it. They're saying that when people do the right thing in the next 80 whatever days, that will restore a balance to the United States. Is it going to heal it? Is it going to just reverse everything and fix it? It's not. But there at least is going to be some balance that comes back. And from that, there is simply going to be more emotional, just like security. People are just going to start to feel safe again. They're going to start to feel a little bit better about themselves again. They're going to understand that they're still actually on pretty rocky times, but at least they're out of the turbulent water. Okay. So yeah, you know what? It's just it's going to be one of, and this is the other thing I just want to mention, right? I mean, you have more and more schools that are being forced to open up. Um, I don't know where it was. I heard it on Friday, and now I don't remember. But there was one school, I guess, that went back to school last week, and I think it was 2 members of the staff ended up being tested positive. As a result, 260 staff members in the school are now in self-quarantine. That kind of stuff is going to continue to happen. And again, he's not going to have any brilliant answers for it because, you know, he just delegated it and somebody else was supposed to take care of it. And besides, let's blame all the governors anyways. So you're going to see some more information coming out about those kinds of decisions, what's going on behind the scenes. And honestly, he's going to be receiving privately a lot more pushback about this whole return to school situation than he is going to let on. But there he is getting phone calls and communications from people who are saying, you are over the line. You are literally demanding that I kill my people, that I put them in a situation where they are absolutely going to die. And so he's actually getting more pushback, I think, on that than we sort of realize at this point. Is that going to prevent him from charging? And probably not. But again, it's not looking, you know, the Lovers it's about partnerships, right? It's about him trying to maintain partnerships, trying to create partnerships, a lot of that revolving around money, about his dreams, about his wishes, about what he wants. And so those are dropping away, right? Some of his donors are dropping away. Companies that, you know, support him or backed him are dropping away. His own members of the GOP are backing away. And now there is pushback coming at him from you know, Republicans who are being really adversely sort of harmed by this charge ahead, you know, take all prisoners sort of attitude that he's got going on here. But he is again losing support behind the scenes. And that in part is what really kind of creates the volatility that you're going to be seeing from him this coming week. And there you have it, right? I mean, look, you've got the Devil, Death, the 5 of Pentacles, and the Tower. So definitely looking like a bit of a tough weekend. Of course, this Three of Swords, and this thing is starting to show up like all the time. And that really is a reflection literally of, I don't know that I would go so far as to say sadness, because I'm not really sure he's actually capable. But it does feel like he is starting to get the message that maybe things are not going so well for him. Maybe people actually don't love him as much as he thought they did. And so he's coming to a place here. I guess how I want to say it is, it feels very much like he's coming to a place where he's going to start, he's not going to be able to continue to escape the reality. As more and more of his secrets come out, as more information comes out, as more and more stuff is exposed, he is really going to find himself in a increasingly precarious situation. So, what can I say about this week? It's got some volatility attached to it for sure. There is an acceleration of his erratic behavior, and there's going to be information coming out that I think is not going to reflect well on him, and that's going to get him agitated and kind of upset and worked out. So before I close, I just want to say, yesterday on the Sunday Soulprint Positive Energy Circle, a video was released that is supporting the schools. So it is supporting the buildings, the students, the staff, the teachers, the professors, and the people who are making decisions that are really in their best interest. So we're going to put, protection around the students going back and the staff. And so if you haven't had a chance to see that, or were unable to participate in it, or maybe have never participated in the Positive Energy Circle, you might want to take a look at that, and you will find it on this feed. It is released on both Soulprint Insights and Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. So you can go in and just look at the history and you'll find it. It's powerful, effective, and I'm hoping that this is something that people are individually able to keep going. Certainly over the next days and weeks, as the whole school situation continues to be grappled with. And before anybody asks, and I don't normally do this, but every time I wear this particular ring, I get a lot of comments on it. People want to know what it is. It is a mystic topaz. And it's just like sort of almost iridescent, right? It sort of reflects the colors that are around it. So just if you're wondering what this stone is that keeps changing colors, that's what it is. Thank you so very, very much for being here. I'm so grateful for the support, the comments, all of it. Thank you so much. Keep those thumbs up coming. They help. And we want to keep, get this information out to as many people as possible, because we really, really want to cool down sort of the fires of anxiety and worry and stress. And again, put ourselves in a place where we are focused on bringing in new, as opposed to trying to get rid of the old that's not serving us and gets us agitated. So until next time, take care, be well, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.